There was this trial and error on all the other lines that G and I did, but I feel like that day on Mount Cook, we just like totally synced with our skill level, our partnership, our trust. To me, that was like such a meaningful line because turn for turn, I don't think I've ever been so engaged. G just looked at me. He was like, "Do you trust me?" I was like, "Yeah, I trust you." He's like, "We're never going to be here again. Let's do what we came here to do." Yeah, it was like a wild place to have that conversation, but there was this like true partnership and trust of like, and I was like, "Yeah, if you want to go, I'll follow you."
Hello and welcome to the Duffel Shuffle. I'm Adrian Ballinger, and we're here to discuss the world of climbing and skiing in all its forms through the eyes of mountain guides.
And I'm Sam Kiekefer. In each episode, we'll unpack exhilarating stories, share invaluable insights, and get up close and personal with some of the most experienced and passionate guides and athletes in the industry.
Whether you're a seasoned alpinist or a weekend warrior, the Duffel Shuffle is your ticket to the thrilling world of climbing, skiing, and mountaineering. Join us. Welcome back to episode 40 of the Duffel Shuffle podcast. This is one I've been waiting to record for quite some time. We've been playing the schedule dance for months. Today we have Christina Lusti and Guillaume Pierrel, Gee, on the podcast with us. Lusti and Gee are just two of this generation's most notable ski mountaineers, and together they've been on a tear of notable lines on some of the, biggest or most famous peaks in the world, including Mount Cook and Mount Robeson. And these guys are skiing some of the steepest lines out there on the biggest peaks in good style and have huge goals for what comes next. This episode of the Dollar Conversation was one of my favorites thus far. How about you, Sam?
Oh, I thought it was awesome. I think to have a partnership like they have is so incredible in the mountains, and they are just hyper focused on first ascents, and it's inspiring. And at the same time, like, they have very little ego, it seems, and truly seem to be just like having fun in the mountains, which probably is why they're so successful. But I thought it was a great conversation. They've got a good dynamic, and some of the things they're doing and the way that their brains work is just fascinating. So a little bit of a taste of that. And it was a tough one to schedule, but I hope we can find a way to get them back on, because they are just continuing to just make a tear in the ski mountaineering first descent world.
Yeah, they snuck us in right before leaving for the next expedition that is probably ongoing right now. And I'm not sure we're even allowed to talk about what it was, so we won't. But they are exciting to follow, and to, they're one of many groups of people that are just, for me, make me feel like, our sport is so healthy, and ski mountaineering, there is so much potential out there. And I just love seeing where people's eyes, dreams take them. And these guys are accomplishing.
It's funny. It's, a lot of people talk about like, when is the golden age of a sport? And there's the argument that like, there's no golden age because every era is a golden age. And I think they're proving that firsthand, that like, there's plenty of lines out there to be skied, and they're going after them.
So many. Yep. So are you skiing right now, Sam? Where are you?
No, I did wake up to like 1.5 inches of snow on my deck. It was pretty wet and heavy. Pretty wild. I actually got home from Hawaii. I was there supporting my wife, who is working at the Ironman World Championships. We got home in Kona. Yep.
Awesome.
And we got home on Monday night to SFO, drove home Tuesday. There was like some patches of snow, and then, crashed and woke up today, and it was like there was 2 inches of snow on the deck. So real full shift there.
So epic. Wait, I've been to Kona, but I've never been to World Championships at Kona. Like, was it incredible? Are you inspired? Are you buying a tri-bike and swim goggles?
I mean, I love sporting events like that. I think we've talked about how like when Western States and Broken Arrow and TrailCon come through Tahoe, like the energy that creates is so fun. And you're in Kona everywhere from the airport to, honestly, the flight over the airport there and around Kona, and like just seeing the energy that comes from a major sporting event like that is infectious. And I'm a pretty poor like swimmer. I can swim fine, but like actually doing, a swim stroke is not my forte. So I think that tries or triathlons are never in my future. But that's the one thing preventing me from being like, oh man, I could give this a shot, because it is like truly contagious when you just have like so much energy around a sporting event. So it was pretty fun to see. And I think Ironman is not only a sporting event, but it's also a brand, which is a cool way to look at it, because there's just everywhere they have their merch, and they have, it's on all the TVs, and they just have built such a brand around Ironman. The tattoos on people's bodies of the Ironman logo are like everywhere. And
are you saying we need more branding?
I'm not saying we need more branding, but they've done a great job at like creating more than just an event out of it.
Yeah.
So it was cool. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and
cool.
8 days in Hawaii this time of year wasn't bad either.
No, with the full fam, right?
Full fam. Yep. My parents came, supported. We've got, the 2-year-old and the 3-month-old. And so it wasn't the most relaxing Hawaii trip, but it was awesome. And I swam in the ocean every day, which was my goal.
Sounds amazing. I'm just about ready for some of that, even though I have none on my horizon.
Yeah. And so where are you? This is a new house.
Yeah, this is as cabin gets, but it's awesome. We are in the Red River Gorge in Kentucky. We've probably talked about it on the podcast before. Kentucky has some of the best rock climbing in the United States. And I think Americans don't realize it, but this is a place like that around the world, people dream of coming to, rock climbers dream of coming to. Deep in Kentucky is the amazing sandstone, thousands and thousands of bolted sport climbing routes, as well as quite a bit of track climbing, actually. And October and November are kind of the best time to be here, along with the spring. And we came out, Emily had some obligations for one of her sponsors at what's called Rocktoberfest. And I think Rocktoberfest is probably now the biggest climbing festival of the year in the United States. A couple of thousand people attend events over 3 days, everything from, as you can probably imagine, clinics, slideshows, dance party, lots of giveaways. All the brands are here with booths, pro athletes, and then, of course, just going out climbing each day. So we did a few days of the festival, but extended the trip a bit to make a 2-week climbing trip. And it rained one day. Rain's very common here. Usually weather is really tough. It's still too hot. Rocktoberfest was made in October because that was the best time to climb here. Indisputably, that has shifted over the past 20 years to November being the best time to climb here. So we're kind of like vacation climbing. It's hot, it's bluebird, it's crowded, but we are having so much fun. And we're out with the fam too. So arrows here and just like playing in the dirt every day. And
for those that maybe are less familiar, what does vacation climbing look like for you? And how does that compare to a different type of climbing trip that you might do?
Yeah, so vacation climbing, is very much for me and Em. Neither of us have like really important projects that we're kind of like pouring heart and soul into. So usually, especially Em, when she's projecting rock, like life isn't actually a lot of fun. It's all based on performance, and it's something that's very hard for her. So going to the same route every single day for weeks or months, doing the exact same warm up, choreographing move after move with a very local likelihood of actually being successful, and then thinking about how much wine you're drinking at night, what you're eating, probably taking way more rest days because you need so much rest to do the power of the movement. And I do the same thing, even though at a lower, less elite level when I'm rock climbing. It's still, since it turns out I love projecting and climbing like right at the edge of my capability. And so that takes that exact same process. And so the opposite is vacation climbing, where we haven't spent any more than a day on a route. We're climbing most days each week. We're going where our friends are going. We're climbing in the sun, even though it's too hot because there's people around we want to be with. I'm getting on as many routes as I possibly can each day. And obviously the grades we're climbing are much lower. So, and we're going out and drinking, tin cup whiskey and bourbon because we're in bourbon country, and like eating big meals with our friends. And Kentucky food is lots of, all American, huge portions. We got ice cream at the ice cream shop, little homemade ice cream shop. And like for like $2.50, I swear it was more than a pint. It was like the 2-scoop version, and it was more than a pint. The scoops were like bigger than my kid's head.
For $2.50.
Like, if you're like, well, I guess we got to eat it all. Like, we're living in a cabin without a freezer. So,
and vacation climbing.
So, like, yeah, we've been eating apple cider donuts. We took Arrow to like an orchard. He went on his first hay rise and corn maze. And, it is just, we're having a load of fun.
Sounds awesome. And so when you guys go to Andermatt, say, for ski trips, would you say that's vacation skiing for you guys? And this is vacation climbing?
Well, the funny thing is these places can be either, right? Like Kentucky, We've absolutely done trips here that are projecting trips. I've had a couple of seasons in Andermatt, specifically before I was getting ready to go and try to ski Makalu, where I felt like I was very serious. I didn't have a project, but I was very seriously training and really focused about what I needed to do.
Yep.
Whereas like last year we went to Andermatt and it was pure vacation skiing. We just every day went and found the best skiing, and it ended with, apple pie and strudel and espresso and, wine and good Italian meals at night. So yeah, that was vacation skiing.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys are having a good time. Hopefully, that continues and the weather stays good even for vacation climbing.
Exactly right. But meanwhile, you might notice that I've once again almost lost my voice and I'm having trouble, maintaining a train of thought. And meanwhile, right now I'm drinking my go to sleep AGZ, which is
it's only 4:00 where you are, if my math is right.
It's 4 p.m. and totally light out. But as you know, but listeners probably don't, we're recording this at 4 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday, October 15th. And I have been awake for 30 something hours.
Because
my news item for the day is just news that I couldn't be more excited to share, which is today at about 12:45 p.m. Nepali time, Jim Morrison, one of our closest friends, my closest friends and ski partners, summited Mount Everest with an alpenglow team and proceeded to ski the North Face, something called the Super Couloir or the Super Direct, a combination of the Hornbein Couloir into the Japanese Couloir, a 12,000-foot ski descent. I'm going to say with an average angle somewhere in the 40s, and maybe one of the most iconic potential ski lines, and certainly one of the most iconic climbing lines on the planet, on the world's biggest mountain.
Incredible. I mean, I think, we have been following this story for a few years now. This is his third attempt at skiing the Hornbein Couloir. And so it's been something that we've been thinking about in some way, shape, or form. But the magnitude of this descent is just incredible. And to have followed along a little bit is really cool. But also for those that haven't, it's just an incredible feat. Now, last week we talked about Andrzej Bargiel, who skied the South Ridge with no oxygen. How do these two descents in the same season, which is just kind of mind-blowing to have two ski descents on Mount Everest that are both groundbreaking in the same season, how do you compare them, or how do you kind of explain the differences in the magnitude of them individually?
Yeah, so it's so epic. What a season for ski mountaineering, tying back to this week's episode with Lusti and Gee and how excited we are about how they're pushing the sport. There's no way both of these ski descents can't be considered like truly historic and continuing to show the progression of ski mountaineering and truly high altitude skiing, something so close to my heart. And both, there are so many more details to come, and both had film crews with them. So I think that's the exciting part, is it might take 2 years. If I know anything about films. Like, I mean, Emily's just took 5 years to come to a full theatrical release. These might not take that long, but it's going to be a while, but we're actually going to get to see so much of what made each of these descents so important. There's no need to compare. There's room for more than one epic ski descent on Mount Everest. And I think we'll learn much more. We know, like you said, that Andrej had a strong support team, summited pretty early in the season with quite a bit of snow and I think quite a bit of avalanche danger still. I think it's come out since the first stories that their team actually did experience an avalanche, and a number of members turned around on the Lhotse face after being avalanched or just below the Lhotse face. So I think it will be interesting to see more of like the skiing that he did, the risk that was taken in that form. And then we know that he skied without supplemental oxygen, which we talked about last week as being something, truly groundbreaking in my mind. And then Jim's descent, like I've been dreaming about and inextricably like thinking about for 5 years now. I think Jim thought up the idea with Hillary 5 or 6 years ago after they skied the Lhotse Couloir. And obviously, we've shared numerous 8,000 meter peaks together. We've attempted a ski descent together on Makalu, the fifth tallest, before I went back and successfully did it. We ski, obviously ski and climb all over Tahoe together. And so I've gotten to see this dream build in him and grow in him and him form the plan around it. And like, while we don't have a lot of details of the descent yet, what I do know is like the line is so groundbreakingly, shockingly beautiful in much the way that, Hillary and Jim spoke about the Lhotse Couloir. Like, they love skiing anything, but they also really saw something in like the most natural line that any skier would see a photo of the mountain and be like, I want to ski that. And if you look at the Super Couloir on a snowy season on the north face of Everest, you say, I want to ski that. He's got a good eye. Certainly, of course, he's not the first one to dream of this line or to even attempt it. It's been being attempted as a ski line for a couple of decades. And before that, it's obviously been climbed by climbers. I think it was first climbed as a complete Japanese couloir into the Hornbein in 1980 by a Japanese team, and then subsequently climbed by Loreton and Triolet in this shocking 41-hour round trip, base camp to base camp, single push, no oxygen style. It's also like changed the sport. And so what I know about Jim's descent is like the line was like no other.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting to have two groundbreaking descents on Mount Everest, the tallest peak in the world, in, a split of 3 weeks, and completely different. I mean, just their base camps were, hundreds of miles apart, or I don't know exactly a distance.
Tens of miles
apart. It feel like hundreds of miles apart when you factor in all the elevation changes. But they're, they operated out of separate countries.
That's right.
And so to have, these two groundbreaking descents on one mountain that had like absolutely nothing alike, and other than the fact that they were on skis, is pretty wild. And so, pretty awesome to hear about Jim, and can't wait to hear about more and hopefully see a film one day. For those that haven't listened to interviews with Jim, we had Jim on episode 6 of the Duffel Shuffle, one of our earlier episodes. So forgive our inexperience in our interview, but awesome conversation with Jim in episode 6. And maybe we'll get to have Jim on in the future to hear a little bit more about his experience on Everest.
Absolutely. And yeah, just my like shout out. I'm just imagining what they're feeling right now. We know everyone's off the face. We know everyone's safe. We know they left the mountain entirely clean from top to bottom, every camp, every piece of trash, all of it, oxygen bottles down. And they still have days of work to go, but I can only imagine that feeling of like exhaustion and awe and shock and like, I hope satisfaction and pride. And I just, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, we kind of like shouted out to Andrej, like, congratulations. And I want to do the same thing to Jim, like the persistence, the doggedness, the belief in this dream when it failed. multiple years, and it's hard to keep going back, and it's hard to keep persuading yourself and other people that it will work, it can work. There are all of those things, and sometimes these dreams take years and years and years, and Jim put that in, and he had an incredible team with him, and they did it. And I'm so stoked for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, talking about exhaustion, like you mentioned, they are probably exhausted and have more to go. We've been talking about Kilian Jornet's little fall adventure in the Western US for a couple weeks now, and he completed his goal of running and climbing and biking and traveling completely human powered across the 72 14,000 foot peaks in the lower 48 in 31 days. Just insane. So there's 72. I mean, the stats are just absurd. There's 72 peaks above 14,000 feet. They sit in Colorado, California, and Washington. And he started in Colorado, and he either ran or climbed or biked the entire way, didn't move an inch in a vehicle, although he did have a support vehicle for rest and refuel. But he did the whole feat completely human powered. I think I want to look and do some more research, but I think he set like multiple FKTs along the way, which I think if you know Kilian as an athlete, like you take an FKT and you put him on the list, and he has a very good chance at setting a new fastest known time. But to do that while covering all this distance and doing all these feats kind of takes that to a new level. So, when he's 70% of the way through this incredibly athletic feat, and he's doing a peak or a route, and he's setting an FKT on that, it's just insane. Like, not that he was rested and prepped for that specific route. He's just like, that's how he moves in the mountains. And pretty insane for him to come out. And, when he first mentioned this project, there was a New York Times article, and I was reading it and I was thinking like, yeah, maybe 2 months, 60 days seems reasonable. I think he biked over 2,000 miles. He climbed something like 400,000 vertical feet, and just absolutely mind blowing. So another incredible feat.
Kilian continues to just blow me away with these types of endurance objectives. This one was a special one, and I think just really easily understandable for people, like anyone who goes hiking a 14, or anyone who spends time in the saddle on a road bike, like understands like putting this much together in this little time, what it takes in terms of like mental grit and physical ability and recovery ability. And I kind of like it in this mix where we're also talking about Jim and Andrzej. Like this, I think, has the same essence while removing a vast, vast majority of the risk that comes with climbing and skiing, often comes with climbing and skiing. Jim and Andrzej's projects were so high in risk. And those are decisions they truly understood. And what I know of them, they made fully eyes open. And Kilian made a different decision. This isn't to say Kilian's done with risk. He obviously has 3 kids, lives a pretty different life today than I think even just a few years ago. But let's see what, I'm sure he has big plans still. But it was really interesting to see him basically create a project of which there are an endless number of projects like this in the world for people to do. And they can be done with a very low level of risk. And yeah, I love that. Like you just keep carrying this out. Is the next one, is it like paddling across the Atlantic and then doing all the 4,000 meter peaks in, wherever, like South America? Like you could just imagine where this could go, like all the 6,000 meter peaks in the Andes connected by bike. And let's add a 2,000 mile row into it, with Jason Caldwell, our buddy who's broken a lot of like rowing records. Like
totally
in the depth of the well of where you can take endurance is so cool. And I love the fact that we can talk about risk, man, and think about, is this time in our lives where we want to do the risky one, or we want to do the monumentally hard one with lower risk? And both are so cool.
And they both should be glorified because I agree. And I think the cool thing, and you're right, It goes for Jim, it goes for Killian, it goes for Andrej, it goes for Lusti and Gee. All of these people just love being in the mountains, and you can tell. And I think that the fame and notoriety is something that people aspire to have. And that can't be created without true passion, because you have to really love these things. And maybe you'll be the 0.1% that gets the fame and notoriety out of it. But you have to start with loving the objective, loving being outside, loving exploring the natural environments that we have access to.
Absolutely. And you're right, like 99.999% will not get the fame, notoriety, and full-time like athlete life out of it that all of the people we just talked about have. But they're out there doing it too. Like one of the cool things about Killian is I've read more deeply, like many people have done sections of what Killian did in incredible times. And most of them are not well-known, famous, sponsored. They've got real jobs, and this is their passion. And these guys, like you said, I love what you said. These are great examples because they have the passion too. They just happen to have sifted out to also be in the limelight.
And they had the passion first.
Passion first.
So that's our message. Well, we already spoke about it, but we have an awesome...
I didn't know we were having a message, but I love it, Sam.
Yeah, new message every
passion
episode.
Passion is keeping me awake right now. Passion for podcasting.
Passion for podcasting. Well, we've got an awesome interview coming up. Lusti and Gee are incredible humans, incredible athletes, and incredible conversationalists. So we had a great one coming, and we hope you enjoy it.
Now let's go get inspired. Welcome back to the Duffel Shuffle podcast, episode 39. And this is a big one for me. When I think about why Sam and I started the Duffel Shuffle podcast, one of the big reasons was the opportunity to speak to guests like we have today and to learn more about what makes them tick, where they come from, but also like how they're pushing these sports and activities that we love so much forward. So today on the pod, we have Christina Lustenberger, Lusti, and Guillaume Pierrel, Gee. We'll be using your nicknames mostly through all of this. But, for the listeners, I'm sure your names are familiar. But, for me, Lusti, I was hearing your name for years. You're a North Face athlete, obviously like a really well-known skier. But the first time I really felt personally connected was when you went to Baffin Island on a North Face trip with Emily. And I was actually at the same time on Makalu, this big mountain in Nepal, the fifth tallest mountain, trying to ski. And I was skiing the worst snow you can possibly imagine. And I just remember Emily calling me like on the sap phone and being like, number one, all we're doing is skiing like boot top powder and it's incredible. And number two, Lusti is the best fucking skier I've ever seen in the mountains. And I was like, wow, like, Em's a good skier, but she's also skied with a lot of great skiers. And she was just like blown away day after day in all conditions seeing you ski. And then, Gee, when I started hearing your name, I knew you were a big mountain Chamonix-based skier and mountain guide. And I heard that the two of you had started skiing together. And I was like, wow, like this is a partnership that could really go places. And that's exactly what we've seen. So, Gee, Lusti, thanks so much for being on the pod with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. There are so many things we want to talk about, but I think it helps the listeners to really understand one at a time to learn a little bit more about how you came to this place. So as some of the leading big mountain ski mountaineers out there doing lots of first ascents that we'll talk about. But let's rewind all the way back and start with you, Lusti. Like, where did you start skiing? How did you start skiing? Where did you grow up? And how did you move from maybe more traditional forms of skiing into exposed steep lines on big mountains?
Yeah. So, for me, I can just pinpoint it to blaming it on my parents. They introduced me to skiing at a young age. My parents were running the local ski shop at Panorama Mountain Resort. And from that moment of enjoying the slopes with my family, I then was entered into the race program. I ski raced until I was about 25 on the Canadian national ski team. And that path kind of ended because of 5 ACL injuries. So I transitioned really quickly into the ACMG ski guiding program. I moved to Revelstoke, and that was really where my eyes were opened to exploring the mountains in a more ski mountaineering mindset. I was, watching characters like Greg Hill and these other local shredders that were skiing first ascents in the interior of British Columbia, the Selkirk mountain range and Monashees. And my mind was kind of blown by, this type of skiing and the way you could explore the mountains. And that all kind of being combined with learning the skills of a ski guide, I started pursuing professional skiing, or it fell into my lap, I'm not sure, but I was an Arc'teryx sponsored athlete. And I think for me, my career has been just this constant of adding layers, from a ski racer to a ski guide, professional skier, and then just not wanting to be the status quo of like, I'm going to go into competition and that's how I'm going to get sponsored. It was really, I just wanted to explore the mountains and myself and push as hard as I could. And, now here I am, like, I kind of almost describe myself as an exploratory ski alpinist. So it's been a long, slow journey, but yeah, an interesting one because the path is continuously changing and evolving.
Awesome. Gee, before we get to you, we need to break a couple of those things down. Like, first of all, ski racing. Is it true you went to the Olympics, didn't you? GS?
Yeah, I was just on the tail end of one of my injuries and somehow managed to find a spot from a top 10 giant slalom result right before the Olympics. And it was basically like I was going to go home, or if I had a top 30, I could go to the Olympics. And somehow I pulled a top 10 out of my ass and went to Torino kind of really last minute. I ended up DNFing in the Olympics, but it was an incredible experience. And yeah, the ski racing was like such a trip, from such a young age. That was all I knew. And I think for me, like, I take what I've learned from it and I feel fortunate for it. But really, I think where I belong is with the freedom of the mountains and exploring in a very different way than what competitive alpine ski racing was.
Yeah. And this is not a parenting podcast, but both Sam and I have toddlers, as you know. Like, is ski racing the way? Do you think that's like, the skills you learned? Did you love it? Obviously, you dealt with a lot of injuries, but, was it a part of your life and path that you really credit to where you are today?
I mean, I think it was a way to create a high-end skill, but back then it was only ski racing. There wasn't free ride, there wasn't backcountry, for kids. And there's so many other options to explore. And I like that because you're not putting yourself into this box of just being a competitive skier. And if you're not first, you're last. And I think that mindset is really hard. And when I think of skiing, it's just an experience with like-minded people, and it doesn't have to be a competitive pursuit. It can be exploring with friends or powder skiing and just enjoying the mountain culture for what it is.
Awesome. Yeah, I hear that. And so we'll come back to you, Lusti, but Gee, was ski racing your background? What is your background to getting to where you are today?
Yeah, so basically, I was born and raised in Les Vosges, which is like little hills northeast of France. And my dad was very passionate by mountains. So the closest mountains were the Bernese, so Oberland Bernois, like in Swiss, in the Swiss Alps. So we were going there a lot, like as a young age. Like I was going to Engelberg, Titlis, if you know, Saas-Fee, Zermatt, this area to ski, like alpine ski, but I was more into cross-country skiing. So very young age, I was like racing on cross-country, running a lot. So I remember, as a very young age, I was like, this is a crazy sport. Like it was always like so cold and like windy. And you know, like when you're like, it's not even like the clothes you get on alpine, on cross country, it's like so thin. So you're like, like you're like, really, it's so cold. And I was like, Dad, I cannot go. Like it's raining now, it's very low elevation. I was like, it's raining, it's so cold, I don't want to go. And when I was going, like he was pushing me, and I was like racing, and I was not that bad. I was, like winning most of the time on cross country skiing, and it gave me that like pace, I think, and that cardio.
Yeah.
You know, like when you do that sort of effort before 10 or 12, I think it's good for the rest of your life, pretty much.
Yeah, I had no idea you started in those like endurance sports in that
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
cardio and racing.
Yeah. And then, well, it has been like 10 years pretty much. Like I was not doing any much of these sports anymore, but like a lot of ski. I went through like derbies and then freestyle for years. We were doing like jumping everywhere, like going around more on snow parks and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
I came back to the mountains like around my 20s. And so I was a ski instructor first in Les Deux Alpes, and then pretty much all around the Alps. So like normal ski school, and then I went like independent ski instructor. I've been also like snow specialist, like working for ANENA, which is like a big non-profit an association in France that like try to understand more like the snow, the avalanche, and everything. So I was working for that, and then I came like back to the mountain guide. Like I just realized that my list was like the list you have to propose, you know, to get into the guide
The French
course
system. Yeah.
was into the system. It was pretty much done. So I said, okay, let's do it. You know, let's add this skill. So then I just passed the mountain guide, and it's quite recently that I start to move a lot into like big expedition. I was mostly skiing in the Alps, and then from the past 10 years, it's like 2 or 3 expeditions a year pretty much. And so yeah, it's most of the time it's for me, like I prefer to work as a guide, like random stuff around here, you know, like around the Alps,
Yep.
and just go on expedition for fun. And
That's why we haven't seen you guiding Everest yet. Yeah.
No, well, yeah, no. Basically, it's also like a different style. Like someone asked me one day, like, yeah, should we go like to 8,000 or something like that? And I was like, yeah, but I'm gonna go like no ox. So like, if you want to
Right.
go alpine style, no ox. Yeah, if you want, like, let's go. But there's a very limited chance that the guy, you know, realize it's like lots of work. So
Yeah. And so you mentioned your dad bringing you to the mountains and things like that. Was he a mountain guide or just a recreational mountain?
it was
someone who
kind
loved
of
the
like
mountains?
a mountain leader, you know, like
Okay.
yeah. So it was just like so passionate, and he was also involved in this cross country club, like the local club. So we were all racing, you know, all my friends that were like racing in cross country,
Yeah.
and then and then alpine. Well, I did racing also in alpine, but my dad was not super into it. Was like, that's too easy. You go up with a chairlift. Like, I don't want to be part of that. And like, you know, like, and also for making money for living, cross
Yeah.
country is like, it's like pretty bad. So I had to move. Unfortunately, I had to move and leave my hometown. And I came in the Alps 20 years ago, pretty much, a little bit more. And
Yeah.
this is now home. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the bottom of Mont Blanc. Pretty good here.
Oh,
So we asked Lusti if alpine ski racing was like the best path for a young kid. Would you say that cross country racing is the best path for a young kid?
Honestly, yes, because you know, like the big effort. There's not many injuries, but I think
Yep.
like the mindset you have to get like with the code and the race. It's like proper, because when you race like on alpine, you know, it's like the time, but you don't see really what's happening, and there you're just like racing with the other kids, and so like it's like fun, but you're pushing your body, pushing your heart, and I think it's like it's good to build like a good racing mindset, and you know, if you want to be a racer. And
This is me and Em. I don't know if Lucy's heard this from Em. This is like our dream for Arrow. We're like, you know, everyone's always like, is he going to be this? Is he going to be that? We're like, we would just love it if we went into Nordic skiing, like relatively safe, not too many injuries. I'm sure there's injuries, and then just training, you know, really learning how to train, how to build that engine, all these, and learn about competition and teamwork and things like that. That's awesome. That's part of your background.
And ski a really small, skinny ski with no edges. If you can make a little turn on a Nordic ski, you can turn any ski.
yeah. That's exactly the point. And the snow is so bad in this part of France. because it's so wet and it's
We're
raining
so
all
wet.
the time. So I remember we were in, like, we had like kind of like a little first sponsor was like a brand that was giving some skis to the club, and we were pretty good. So we were training, but we were like having a lot of fun. So we were making some jumps and trying like 360 and backflip on cross-country skiing. And so we were
Wow.
breaking a lot of skis. And by then I said, okay, Gee, you're not going to get any more skis now. It's too much. You break. I was around 10 or 12, you know.
Lusti, how's your Nordic skiing? Have you always Nordic skied over time, or have you started?
I did a little bit for training, but no, it's not something that I've picked up on, really. You haven't
Yeah.
seen me.
Yes.
He was breaking skis and I was breaking knees.
I like it. So both of you ended up in the mountain guiding world. Gee, you became a full mountain guide through the French system. Lucy, you became a ski guide through the Canadian system. Like, for both of you, was this like kind of, I need a job, and this is a way to get a job in like that keeps you in the mountains, or can you speak a little bit more to the drive that brought you to mountain guiding? Obviously, Sam and I are both mountain guides. Sam's on his process to IFMGA, to finishing IFMGA, and I've had mine for a bit from back in the day when it was easier. But I'd just be interested to hear like why did you choose that, and do both of you spend much of your lives today mountain guiding?
I think for me, it was this like realization that I really wanted to step away from ski racing, but I still had this longing to spend my life in the mountains and skiing. So, and I had talked with a couple people who did some programs and courses and were heli ski guiding. My parents met at a heli ski lodge.
Nice.
So this was like something that was familiar, but also unknown. And it seemed like the best training I could get to evolve into a person who could travel safely in the backcountry. But for sure, it was like, okay, well, ski racing stopping, where can my career or life go? And so there was, like, I need to make money. I need to find a path forward. And in Canada, it is like a really established job. I think the mecca of heli ski guiding. There's a huge network of backcountry ski lodges and remote terrain that you can explore. So that was a nice path to pursue.
And Lusti, are you doing any guiding, or is that a path that you're continuing on? Or is it more like you got this skill set and this knowledge base and you've taken it even further in the professional skiing realm?
I think the last time I was guiding was 2022. And for some personal reasons, after, I think it just was like professional skiing was putting more pressure on me. And it was also an opportunity there that wouldn't always be there. So I kind of leaned into that, and I've let guiding kind of wait for me on the sides for when I want to return to it. But I do feel like I've, with the professional skiing, I've been able to mentor a lot of younger athletes, females in Pakistan, gentlemen in Baffin. So there's been opportunities within professional skiing to still, teach and to, allow that exploration within guiding and that passing down to other people. But I've kind of put it on the side for now, on the side burner. But Gee and I are about doing some retreats together, guiding together.
Yeah, I think it's
cool.
a very precious and beautiful work and title. Like in France, I don't know about US or the other countries, but here, especially in France, it's like really a title. I mean, like there's a doctor, there's a guide. It's pretty much considered as the same like skill and knowledge people.
Yes.
Seriously, like, you're half human, you're half God when you're a mountain guide.
Now we better understand the mentality of a French mountain guide.
Yeah, and we're in the middle of universe. So, all this combined, it's like a lot. No, I'm kidding. But basically, like, I mean, first of all, my dad was, a mountain leader, and he had his life. I mean, he had his beautiful life in northeast of France, but he was not able to become a guide. But I think it was like, that was something like more like a dream for him. And so he transmit that to me, and it was like an unconscious thing that I always had, like it was like, okay, being a ski instructor, being a guide, that was like kind of like a destiny. And then after being a ski instructor when I was 17 years old, I was like, so I remember one day, I think it was in teen, and I was like talking to someone, and he was like, "Are you gonna do that all your life? It's like you're gonna finish with a red nose, and like like
from the sun or from the drinking?
I don't know, but like it's like always like a repetition of always the same thing, and it was like, yeah, I need to use like my brain more. Like I was like into more like cerebral. Well, I was key coach and stuff. Like I was involved in different stuff, but I was okay. I need to go back to school, and I went back when I was 25. At university, and I think it's like a bit weird background I had, because I went back to university, I did a master, then I went in UK as a business developer in like 3D printing industry. So I was like totally different stuff, like working for Formula One companies and building like some like 3D very complex parts for big industry. It was very, very interesting. And then I was working in Switzerland, and every day I was like just on the road in between Geneva and Lausanne. So you're just facing, there's a lake and the Alps. And I was like, what I'm doing in this car, like dressed as a businessman, and like, that's not my life. I want to go back to the mountains. And that's exactly like at that time that I saw my friend, and he was like, oh, I finished my list. I'm going to present the list to become a mountain guide. And I was like, show me the list. I was like, okay, I have that list. Let's try. Let's go. And a year after, I was into the course, and it went pretty well. And that was a beautiful story. Then to get into that, all the people I met into this industry, I mean, into all the other mountain guides, I was really feeling like at my place, with all the planet was aligned, and I was feeling really, really good and really like ancré, like I was really like, fixed into this area and this situation, surrounded by people like me. So that was great.
Wow. And are there any days when the snow is really terrible, or you're like scared at the top of a line, like, damn, I should be 3D printing, making money?
Sometimes I'm like, phew. When I was sitting in an office in Geneva, that was more safe for sure.
Yeah. No, I think it's interesting though, because many mountain guides and that I run into and work with and have the opportunity to mentor through Alpenglow and things like that, and also athletes trying to make a go of it, like many times people question like, should I have tried that other path? Should I have done that? Would I have been happier? It's a really interesting story that you actually went and tried. You made this decision to come back into the mountains with really open eyes.
Yeah, and basically, I think like I would recommend that to anyone. Like, if you want to do an MBA, if you want to go, like, even if you like relatively old, or if you're not like young anymore, I don't know, like where you put the cursor, but like I think like if you want to do something different, well, guiding is so great, and like if you do that for a living, you expose yourself like a lot. So if you can do something else, on side, but for me, it's my main job, but I'm happy to do like different stuff around and having some time, like I feel more exposed, and that I like use more cerebral, or creating something, or building a company. Like for the past 6 years, I had a ski school as well, build a ski school with an associate, and so having like different stuff around was helping me to not also just like putting all the eggs in the same box.
Sure. And so it sounds like you do mountain guide quite a bit still. Like, what is your breakdown kind of through the year, or do you choose certain seasons to mountain guide versus do your own athletic pursuits? How are you balancing?
So basically, I'm not like professional skier. I mean, I've got some support from some brands in materials mainly, and so I don't have that pressure, which is pretty good, because they can help me if I have a nice project. And if I say, okay, I go on expedition with Lusti, with Gotler, with whoever, like for sure, like it's like easy for me to be supported financially.
Yeah.
But like as like non-professional skier, I have to be there, with my clients, and I really enjoy it. I don't go like, okay, I need to make money, like you said previously. No, I just go because I have like very, very close relationship with some clients, and I'm super happy to go and top up a new 4,000 peak, or go on a nice ski day, ice climbing, whatever, like everything. And so I just try to be polyvalent and do a bit of everything. The winter season for sure is the biggest for me. But then, like, I was supposed to do a Mont Blanc this weekend. Like next week, I'm gonna go to Eiger. Like that's different
Yeah.
stuff like this. And then in between, we have some trainings, and in betweens for longer period, we have some expedition. Most of the time is interseason, so spring
Yeah.
and fall, which is perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a neat perspective, and it's great to hear how you describe that. I mean, for me as a young kid, I think mountain guiding was first. Like I had taught a bunch in university, different random things like wakeboarding and being a biology TA and things like that. So I knew I liked teaching and kind of working with other people in their process. But it was like I need a job, and I became a ski instructor, and then ultimately started mountain guiding when I moved west. But very quickly I figured out like I actually love it. I love being a part of like building these like pathways for other people to achieve these like big goals that are very important to them. And so it wasn't just like a way to keep climbing or a way to be in the mountains or a way to fund my personal, climbs. It was also because like, I really connect with that like mountain guiding job and profession. That's interesting that you also really enjoy it.
But I think for me, like one thing that you said, Gee, was really clicked for me. Like it's really nice when you build a relationship with a client. For me, like I don't love meeting someone on a Saturday morning and saying bye to them on a Saturday afternoon and never seeing them again. I love seeing someone 6 times a season and working with them towards their goals and like continuing that season after season. Cause I think that's the special part about guiding. If you're just doing it for a paycheck, it's a tough job. But if you're able to connect with people, it's really rewarding.
Oh yeah, totally agreed. Yeah.
And it's good. We're kind of talking about like the model of mountain guiding, which I think the Chamonix mountain guides, many of you do really well, but also in the US it's becoming more common. Like whether you work for a guide company like Alpenglow or independent, it's like building this like stable of clients that you really enjoy working with, you really connect with, and then planning with them. And for many of our guides now, they fill 70 or 80% of their calendar with people they know and they work with, and they have objectives they want to go and get after or new places. And I think it's to what you're saying, Sam, a really powerful way to like make guiding kind of like emotionally sustainable as well as financially sustainable.
Absolutely. So I want to move forward a little bit, and I want to hear about Lusti, like how you fell into professional skiing, because I think so often we hear about young kids that have this dream of being a professional skier. And whether that's a free ride competitor or in ski movies, they're just like at 15 years old, they're focused on getting sponsors and being a professional skier. And for you, it seems like it happened a little bit of a more non-traditional way, in that you say it kind of fell in your lap. How did that kind of happen for you? And I'm sure you had sponsors when you were ski racing, but how did the sponsorship and support to be a professional skier happen for you, Lusti?
Yeah, well, like I said, I moved to Revelstoke and I was pursuing the ski guiding program. And I had just let go of a lot of sponsors on the ski racing side. But I think if I could just like say it in one word, is I just said no a lot of times to other people and what they wanted me to do. And I did my own thing. And I've been doing my own thing for the last 20 years. And I think that is kind of the proven formula, as being authentic. I think it was just like coming off, essentially skiing World Cup and, people kind of showing me the way in the backcountry and still dropping in like it was a giant slalom course, So I was pushing myself and skiing fast but like on big lines in Canada. And so I think it just turned heads. And like I said, I had people that were inspiring me to continue, on the the tails of their path, and so signing with different companies, and that just happened really effortlessly on my own path. Like I was more really focused on becoming a ski guide, and I wanted to heli ski guide and learn from all these guiding mentors that I had crossed paths with. And alongside that, it just, filming happened, photos happened, first ascents started happening, and then it's just been this journey of documenting my own authentic path in the mountains, and really avoiding any sort of competition, actually. Like, since retiring from ski racing, I haven't competed in a sporting event.
Wow. And was there ever a push for you to go into the freeride tour and thing? Or did people encourage you to?
Yeah, there were invitations for sure, and opportunities, but I never was interested in competing again. I really think I wanted to avoid being injured. And so, but I was just like really pulled towards like fucked up terrain in the mountains, like skiing, exposed skiing, and then it, like learning to rock climb and adding the ropes and the rock gear. And then it was like a big turning point for the style of skiing I did was meeting Brett Harrington and like having that climber influence, and then that partnership, and that just opened up a whole nother, mindset and way of moving through the mountains.
Yeah, I now see you climbing quite a bit, both the ice terrain and rock terrain. Has climbing become like a real love, or for you, is it like really just wanting to build these skills more for your ski descent goals?
I think there's both. Like, I love it because it's new and I get to be in that beginner mindset. I get to see progression. I can do it in a relatively safe manner. When you're using ropes and rock gear, or ice gear, you're protecting yourself. And the style of skiing I'm doing, like, there isn't protection. When you're dropping into a steep slope, you're essentially free soloing.
Yep.
And the style of skiing I do is often very, very exposed and engaging, and there's a ton of risk. And so I see that if I want to push the style of skiing that I get the most joy from, it's not going to be sustainable. So allowing myself to spend a lot of time ice climbing and mixed climbing and rock climbing, I think that, it's only going to make me stronger in this terrain, but it's also going to remove me from a lot of risk during the winter season as well.
So yeah, you mentioned risk, and it's definitely a part of what we kind of wanted to talk about today. I'm really interested, like, can you identify why it is that these higher risk lines that you've become known for, like, what is it about that terrain or that level of risk that's drawing you in, that's driving you, that inspires you?
I think that it's like just being completely engaged and, creating this lifelong journey of mastery in the mountains. And by doing that, you can really push your sport and, who you are physically and mentally. And when I go to the mountains, like, I like to feel so connected and so sharp, and to be challenged, to be pushed back by the mountain, and to feel like I can really, truly engage with the skills that I've learned and evolved into. So yeah, it's where this like true presence feels like really alive, where you just feel like everything pulse through you, and like this, people talk about flow state a lot, but I think that truly exists in these wild places and wild terrain.
Yeah. And Gee, I feel like you were known for some of this same kind of like high exposure lines in Chamonix, and now obviously you're bringing that beyond Chamonix to other places. You come from a mountain guiding background where obviously risk management and mitigation is a huge part of the job, and probably the tolerances are quite different than you might be choosing personally. How do you engage and connect with that risk? Do you love it? What is it that's driving you in this bigger and steeper terrain?
Well, I don't ski a lot like alone. Most of the time I ski with partners. I do some lines on my own, but I prefer to share like the moment, like the adrenaline. You fix like an objective, and like when we were like skiing on the Shroud, this little neve in the middle of north face of Les Grandes Jorasses. I went with a good friend like Boris, like super talented, and the guy is like just like not healthy at all. It was just like so funny because the guy, I was like, "Are you in Chamonix?" Yeah, you can meet me at the McDonald's. So he was like, he was eating a burger there just right before we were like starting from the valley to reach the mountain. And like that was not serious at all until like the moment you put your skis on, you're in the middle of this place, and you just like realize that you still have the power of choosing. In the mountains, it's like the freedom. It's you want to go and ski there, okay, you can try. Like no one's gonna tell you. Probably they're gonna tell you, no, it's not a good idea. But they're not gonna tell you like you cannot.
But they're not going to tell you
Yeah.
no.
If you want to go, you will go. And that's, I think, for me, the freedom of being up there and like, just choosing what I want to do. Like we don't have more choice in this world now. Everything is so constrained, and everything is like, people are deciding for you, not up there. So I think I would say that's the most thing I'm looking for, the freedom, and for sure the adrenaline. Like, but sometimes the adrenaline brings you like the perfect ski because you're so focused on every single turn, edge, and you feel like that you have like all this control. And sometimes when you ski with that girl, like you're like struggling going down with your axe, and she's like skiing on your side, and you're like, okay, so I should just like, find another sport or do something else. I don't know, maybe dancing or whatever. Like, but yeah, we had that experience recently. That's why it's.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Alpenglow Expeditions, a Tahoe-based guide company with an international reputation. In its 20th year of operations, Alpenglow leads the highest quality expeditions in some of the world's greatest mountain ranges, from California's High Sierra to the rugged Himalaya. Alpenglow runs more than 40 international expeditions per year, as well as offering a full menu of guided ski and climbing courses throughout California. Join us and experience the Alpenglow difference.
So talking about partnerships, Lusti, you obviously had some success on these steep exposed lines before skiing with Gee. Brett Harrington and others were good partners, and you had some first descents. And then Gee, I know you had a Pakistan expedition that was successful, and some other, obviously ski lines in the Chamonix Valley and amongst others. But it seems like as soon as you two started skiing together, you just went on an absolute tear of skiing hard lines and first descents and going on expedition. Is there something that clicked for you guys in terms of your mountain partnership, and how did you guys first get linked up for these objectives?
I mean, I think that was funny because so the really first time I heard about Lusti was, so she just sent me a text. I never really heard about her. Sorry about that. But like, and like, she was like, "Oh, do you want to come in Canada to ski?" I was like, "What? Who are you?" Like, and then, I was collecting some information around, and for real, that like there's Europe and North America, and it's not like overlinked all the time. It's like,
it's true.
It has its own like system and personalities, and some athletes, some riders, they cross the Atlantic, but not all of them. And so basically, like I didn't know, and that was a super nice invitation, but I was like, okay, maybe I need some time. Like we should maybe meet somehow first, and then we see like. And she came to Chamonix, and we just started that relationship, like doing some link up, like alpinism, like running into the mountains, because I like kind of alpi running. So that was just like a link up.
Is that an official name, Alpi running?
Yeah, alpi running. Yeah, it's existing. Yeah, of course.
I love it. So running that includes some sort of technical terrain, scrambling, rock climbing, some other alpinist kind of activity.
Yeah, no,
how would you define it?
Running in the alpine with a backpack.
Yeah, and we were like climbing like proper.
Okay.
Peaks. I mean, yeah. So climbing routes, like 3 climbing routes, and we had to, to do this and get on time, like for the last cabin, the last cable car. And I was just like, okay, you have to run. I was testing her, and that was like, she had a good response. That was a good pace. It was so fun. And by the end, we were like, okay, for sure we are like on the same page. We like being up there, and we have to ski together now. And that was just right before New Zealand. And then we decided to go there. And the real first time we skied together was on Mount Cook, our Rocky Mountain.
Yeah.
So that's that was a big.
And this is also when like you blasted onto my radar, right? Like, so maybe we can talk a little bit about that Mount Cook, New Zealand season expedition. Like, because so much of my Himalayan time was working with all Kiwi mountain guides. I worked basically for a Kiwi company in my early years when I was young. And so everyone always talked about skiing Mount Cook and Caroline Face and things like this. And when I heard you guys had done, at least one first ascent over there, maybe more, you'll have to tell us, including a new line on Cook itself. I think on the Caroline Face, I was just like, wow, like I need to see the footage. I want to learn everything about it. So tell us a little bit about that trip.
Well, after spending the summer in Chamonix, I flew to New Zealand early September, and Gee was planning on joining me in October. So I was there like 3 or 4 weeks before him. I skied. I did one trip in to the Plateau Hut with Sam Smoothie.
Yeah.
And I remember he's a local Kiwi and North Face athlete, amazing skier. What he's doing in New Zealand is really, really cool. But I remember landing at the Plateau Hut and looking up at the east face of Mount Cook. And you see the iconic east face that everyone skied, which is this beautiful steep panel. And then just to the left, the terrain gets like a lot more complex and convoluted. And but there was this kind of ribbon of snow and this ramp system that comes off the summit ridge and just seemingly links enough, when you're starting to look at like what's possible for skiing. And so I asked Sam if that had been skied and what it was called. And he was like, oh, that's the Jones route. It's an alpine climbing route. It hasn't been skied, so I'm just like, oh, well, cool. And I remember texting Gee a photo of it being like, I'm pretty excited for, him to come over and to see his like Euro skills go to work. And so from that moment of seeing the line and Gee arriving in New Zealand, the conditions also were just like improving. We were on the tail end, I think, of like one of the wettest Septembers in like recorded history. So there's a lot of snow, and we basically flew into the mountains and started skiing with Sam on this other link up. We did 2 other first descents on Mount Dixon and Mount Vancouver. We did one initial attempt on the Jones route on Mount Cook, which we basically got forced off because of like extreme winds. If you've ever skied in New Zealand, the winds, like they really push you off the mountain. But we were so like locked into this vision of skiing this ramp system that we went out for 2 days during a storm cycle and resupplied, came back, and like that was really this moment of, I felt like, there was this trial and error on all the other lines that Gee and I did, but I feel like that day on Mount Cook, we just like totally synced with our skill level, our partnership, our trust. And to me, that was like such a meaningful line because turn for turn, I don't think I've ever been so engaged on a line. 1, because of the exposure, and 2, because of the snow surface that we were skiing. Like we were engaging our edges on such a firm surface, and you really had to trust yourself to have the confidence to go from like one side of your ski to like complete a turn and land on the next side. And, I never once doubted Gee and his skills, and he didn't doubt me. And there was this like back and forth partnership where we pushed each other, where we supported each other, and where we like got to a turning point in this line of like, do we complete our vision and ski like really into the unknown, or do we go down and descend, part of this line that we had already climbed up? And that was like, we were going back and forth, and at the end I was like, well, we could just go and ski where we've climbed. Like we know it goes, we know what the snow's like. It's the safest option of what we were trying to do that day. And Gee just looked at me. He was like, do you trust me? I was like, yeah, I trust you. He's like, we're never going to be here again. Let's do what we came here to do, and let's go finish this ramp system. And we were skiing into the unknown. It was this very exposed, convoluted, we didn't know potentially if there would be another rappel. And
Yep.
yeah, it was like a wild place to have that conversation. But there was this like true partnership and trust of like, and I was like, yeah, if you want to go, I'll follow you. Like at that moment, I would have followed him anywhere because we were so synced with the vision and the style of skiing and the skills. And that was like a pretty wild experience to have.
Wow. Yeah. And Gee, in that moment, if you go to that moment as well, like, did you just have a lot of confidence that it did go and would remain skiable? Did you have confidence just that you guys had the skills to deal with whatever came? Or was it just like, fuck it, let's take all the risk? Like, what was going through your brain?
Well, on that day, Lusti was like really, really strong. On the way up, she was like pushing me, and I was like, we're not gonna do anything on that face. It's not possible to ski that. And like the sky was like covered, and there was no chance, to get like melting snow or melted snow. So there was like that was
there was no softening.
No, not softening. So we knew like that was like the worst snow, like super, super firm. And so on the way up, I was like kind of like not super motivated. And she was like helping me. And then like on the way down, same, like at first part, I remember like being struggling to put some first turns because that was very, very frightening. And she was like helping me to get back into, this comfort zone and trying to find back my ski and get some nice feeling. And then, so I was getting right back when we reached that point. And yeah, for sure, like I was analyzing, I remember like the snow texture on these ramps, like on this face was pretty good. So it was like a big bet, but there was, we had the rope, we had some pitons and everything. And that's what we do. I mean, it's like steep skiing, it's adventures. And we were like at the edge of like going down the drone route, the way down, or just like going on adventure and exploring the rest of the face. There was just like, for me, there was no question. And when she said, okay, I trust you, I was like, okay, let's go. and basically it was pretty tense, but we found some little, just very little path. And the exit was just like crazy, like a very little ramp in the middle of a mixed terrain. Like no way, like there was like big cliffs everywhere, and it was just a little ramp. And while we find it, we were like, wow, God, it's like incredible, that feeling. And then you just exit that face, and as I just sat on the snow, I was like totally, empty and all out, like no more energy. But yeah, no, for sure that day we're like, okay, we could do whatever we want together. It's like, it's working. It's a good team.
And that's when he got his invitation to Mount Robson. Was that?
Oh yeah, I got that.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And he was testing me here, like running.
And you were testing him.
Like, okay, he passed the test. This is gonna
passed the test.
Yeah. So let's go. Meet me in Canada in February. Bring your down jacket.
Let's talk about Robson. But so like, you joke about that, but like, do you either individually or both do you have a list? Do you have this idea, the 10 faces you want to ski? And it was like, okay, now we can go try this one. Like,
I think the list has 100 faces, not just 10.
Of course, we all have lists. That's terrible, but there's tons of lists. There's not only one, unfortunately. But I'm sure you had that on top of your list for 10 years, no?
Yeah, I think like it's crazy to be on the other side of Robson, because when I think back of thinking about this for the first time and it just kind of sitting, and on the list and looking at it every year before whatever reason I got distracted by something else, or just procrastinated or didn't feel ready, too afraid, didn't engage. But then where my skiing took me and meeting Gee and where I felt like we could go with it, it just somehow locked in with Robson again, and being like, okay, this is like this is next for me. You know, I was on the tail end of Trango, then again on the tail end of New Zealand, and it was like, what's meaningful? Where do I want to like pursue my energy and inspiration? And then, yeah, having a partner that felt like, you know, there's this intense trust, amazing skill set, and he also had the like energy and the vision to, you know, pursue something as wild as what Robson or New Zealand could be, and so on, really, because we're still, you know, moving around the world trying to
still on that path. Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about on this podcast. I think it's really been one of the themes of guests who have joined us is like both how challenging it can be to find the right partner in the right time and place of life, like the financial ability or support from brands, the time, the, you know, risk kind of like calculation coming to the same place or a similar place in terms of risk calculations, fitness, non-injury. Like it is I think it's one of the great challenges of doing big things in the mountain is to find the right partners and then to execute when you do. So it's interesting hearing that from you too, like knowing from first France, then Cook, and it was like, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So talk about Robson, and for our listeners, break down like Robson as a whole, not just your first descent on Robson, but kind of like what is Robson for people that don't know of it?
Well, Mount Robson is the highest peak in the Canadian Rockies, and it really is like the iconic peak to me of Canada. It's like the Matterhorn to Switzerland. So many people, you know, pass by it because the highway drives right past the south face, but there's a ton of history. Like I think of one mountain that holds a lot of history within mountaineering and skiing. It's Robson, from, you know, the Emperor Face, the North Face, the Cane Route, and it dates back to the 1970s. So it really is like a testing piece for skiers and climbers. And aside from that, it's like a beautiful mountain. There's a lot going on. It has the Himalayan scale, but it's in, you know, my backyard or the backyard of many Canadians. And I think there's like this proudness that I have to this mountain. And I think it's, you know, growing up in Canada and BC and being part of that history, I think that I always envision somehow putting my name amongst all the other climbers and skiers that have, you know, created their routes or their lines and stories there. So it's a beautiful mountain. And yeah, what we did on it last year was really, it was just nice to, you know, come full circle and finish this project that, you know, has been like, it's like that annoying mosquito in the room. You're like, like.
Did you know you wanted to ski the Great Cool Wall of the South Face? Like, were you considering skiing, repeating other lines?
No, I mean, my style of skiing is definitely like, I like envisioning terrain and being the first person to do it. I think there's a lot of like curiosity and inspiration and imagination that just comes from yourself or your partners, and then the ability to look at terrain and just figure it out on your own. There's no route, there's no beta, like you're kind of like putting all these pieces together. And yeah, when you see photos of the Great Couloir, which is this beautiful ribbon of snow, if you see it in the summer, it comes right down the south face and it drops the biggest elevation on Mount Robson. It's almost a 3,000 meter ski descent or ascent. From my never been attempted on skis. It has been attempted in the winter, but it doesn't have a full winter ascent. And yeah, there's so many possibilities on that mountain still. Lots to repeat that are beautiful lines. But to me, I wanted to open up a line and not just like a variation on the mountain, something that was like very iconic. And when you see photos of Robson and see it from the road, it's right there. And that's what's so cool is it's familiar to people who just drive past it. And a lot of people can just like now stop in the visitor center and go, oh yeah, two crazy skiers skied that line and tell children and talk about it. And I think that is our part in inspiring the next generation or inspiring curiosity in the mountains.
And you describe it as like an obvious line or a visible line. Like, why hadn't it been attempted before?
It's like everybody is asking this question because it's like, yeah, it's so obvious. I think, but it's so exposed as well.
I think, yeah, and like Robson it does like create its own weather. It is hard to like, the North Face was skied like 20 years ago for the first time. It's only been repeated once.
Yep.
So that says something, right? And I think that also in Canada, we don't have the population of steep skiers or exploratory skiers as you do in Europe. And for sure, if this mountain was in Europe, there'd probably be a tram going to the top and you'd get your schnitzel like ski down, right? Like, and then there'd be a nice spa at the bottom to like warm your feet in. But this is remote, and you have to climb the mountain and realize the exposure and there is a lot going on. Like, you don't not look up and wonder like what could go wrong on this line. There's so much that's kind of thrown at you, from the technical skills just to ascend it, the elevation and the time you expose yourself. There's seracs, avalanches, and it is a self face, right? So that also, you're fighting solar input into the snow and melting snow and ice and creating its own instabilities in that way. And that was a reason why, going in February to me made sense, because that is like the most stable air mass with long enough days to actually accomplish this thing in daylight. And it's like this time when you often find snow conditions very stable. Like, there's that cold, clear, high pressure that I also call like the Valentine's Day gift. Yeah. And it just seemed like that would be the time to climb a 3,000 meter peak or a 3,000 meter line that faces the sun. And, but it also like was extremely cold when we did.
So did you catch the like once in a decade conditions on Mount Cook, and then did you catch them again on Robson, or do you think these conditions actually like they do come? You just need to know and identify them.
I mean, in New Zealand, I was like not so familiar. I think we got lucky, but in Canada, for sure, like this is where most of the ski lines I've done, most of my skiing has been, and I've been tracking, these weather patterns that continuously kind of show up. And I would say that generally there is a high pressure that shows up in February. It goes green brick and you can ski anything and everything in cold, dry snow. Like, a lot of people who exploratory or steep ski, they wait for these spring conditions. But I think that, we did this in like cold winter snow, and because of the elevation and the solar, like, I don't think this is a line you could safely descend in the spring, because it took us 3.5 hours to descend. And when you think of 3.5 hours in the spring, like the whole mountain's going to fall apart by the time you get to the bottom, just by warming and things falling, and you're in this funnel, like this hourglass. So yeah, it just made sense to do that. But, the invitation went out to Gee, and he's like, okay, yeah, I could come for 3 weeks. And I was like, oh, like 3 weeks is short, and
it might, you just don't know, right?
Snowstorm, or you can get 3. And so he arrived, and I think within 12 days, we had the window. We went and climbed this thing, got it done. And
well, the window, like, you're climbing in the snow, and like you can't see anything. Like, the first time,
seems like maybe you made the window.
Yeah. You're like, oh, we are in the window right now. Wow, that's great window. I mean, no, that was like, we were like struggling with all this. The Robson has its own weather, and it was very, very hard to calculate where to go. And for sure, like, I'm not familiar with that cold, so that was also pretty hard. Like, I had to shave my mustache because no, but that was
tech tip: shave your mustache before going to Canada.
It was like minus 30, 35. Well, I think it's common there, It's and it was great, but like, for sure, different snow, different texture. And we had a terrible night in the middle of the face, like, well, terrible night. No, it was not so terrible, but like, like really cold. And so we were like,
Shivering.
we were like really like, I was like reconsidering everything of what I'm normally doing because of all this new terrain and environment. But when so like I was again like very trusting her, and like she invited me to Robson. I was like, okay, I have a bit of knowledge, but not really. So it was, for me, it was pretty like not a familiar mountain, and so when we just came on the parking lot, I didn't know exactly what was coming, And I was telling her like, don't send me too much picture and everything. I'm coming. That'll be fine. I'll be your partner on this project, and I'm super happy to come. But I was, keeping the surprise. And from the parking lot, the entrance of the park, it's like, this is really the Himalayan style. Like the scale is big. There was like different level of clouds. And so that was, like kind of like in a cartoon, like this shows up like a big triangle. That was like, wow, okay. So we're going to go up there and ski that face. Wow.
Yeah.
That was like, and then I was fired up, and so that was like kind of this surprise effect, and then I discovered everything. But she had all the plan in her head.
Yeah.
I mean, the approach, the gear stash, where to go, which day, and everything. So I was more like tail. I was like following
the tail guide. I was
tail guide
of that one. I was the tail guide.
No, but I was like, I knew like Gee's season, he was guiding and very like focused on what he was doing. And, I was basically after New Zealand, went back to Canada, started climbing, skiing, but I was really focused on planning this trip because it was the country that I'm so proud of and our mountains. I wanted to roll out the red carpet for him.
Yeah.
Like for sure, he had the red carpet, and it was such a nice 3 weeks, and super fun. And he showed up and he saw the mountain. He had the energy, the fire, the inspiration, and I never once guessed like he would come and be like, "Oh, I don't know about this." Like he was so engaged when he arrived that it was like really fun to ski that with him.
And this part of the Rockies is like so remote. Like we were spending a lot of time in Vermont, and that's just this little village or this little town, like super remote and very new for me. And that was really like a great experience. And the team, like the whole filming crew we were with and everything, like that was kind of like a big adventure. And after that, when like we finished that project, we were like, okay, I was like, okay, I want to cross like Canada and go and celebrate in Whistler. She was like, that's kind of like, there's a bit of driving. Yeah, but I've got some friends there. We need to celebrate now. We did the job, And finally we show up in Whistler, and all her friends, like everybody were there, like, guys, you ski Robson.
Wow.
So nice. And like we had a huge party with tons of people. That was just like amazing. So that was a big package for me.
Yeah. And so there is a film coming out about Robson, is that right?
Yeah, we were filming with Sherpa Cinemas.
Amazing.
The movie will be premiered opening night at the Banff Film Festival this year.
Heck yeah. Have you seen a cut yet?
Seen a few cuts. Yeah, it's coming together. Yeah. Polishing up. So, I mean, the footage, because Gee filmed, well, we both filmed on slope, but Gee was the main on slope filmer with like a proper camera. And then we had 3 cameramen at the Ralph Forrester hut, which is essentially this tiny tin hut that's bolted to the mountainside, more or less halfway up the south face.
Amazing.
So there were 3 filmers there so they could play with the elevation below and above them with the drones, because it was such a big face to climb and film. And then we had one filmer on
the other side,
an opposing ridge on his own bivvy with a Barbie angle shooting.
Awesome.
But like these guys, and us too, like we were all engaging with around -25 to -30 temps. And, we were all...
We don't do that in California.
Well, yeah. And so the film team like really rallied, and they have some incredible footage of this
Yep.
mountain. Yeah, it's really cool. So we're excited to share that.
I can't wait. That's cool. Excellent. And so, I want bringing it to, I think it's really interesting what you were describing with Robson, and you were able to kind of drop in, gee, it's your backyard, Lusti, and so many years of thinking about it and planning and all the rest. But you both have been bringing this kind of skill set into the bigger mountains and true expedition style as well, with Trango for you, Lusti, Gasherbums for you, Gee. So how do you gain confidence when you drop into a place that isn't your backyard, that you haven't been studying the snowpack with all season, that there's not this huge history of skiing? For each of those big trips that you've both done, and I'm sure there's many more, does the mindset change? Does the risk tolerance change? How do you begin?
I think the body has kind of a memory, and when you say you cannot forget how to ski, you cannot forget how to cycle, and when you're on the top of 8,000, even if you totally destroy, you will be able to find some balance, just enough to move. It's not the best ski you can provide, and it's not super beautiful turns and stuff, but you can go down, That's all. The purpose is to go down. I mean, for high altitude, that's what I felt when I was there, out of my comfort zone. But on other different terrain, yeah, for sure. When you haven't been skiing for a long time and you just show up on top of a mountain, like the highest mountain of an island in Oceania or in Canada or wherever it is, it's always challenging. I think the first turn is challenging, but then that's what we do forever. So I mean, touching the snow, calculating everything, and so I think it's the experience that talks itself. And I would probably have been not such a good steep skier when I was 20, and I feel now I can really provide good ski in every kind of snow or terrain, or even if it's super remote or not in my backyard at all, just because the 20 plus years of experience and my body has this memory.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I would add is on these big objectives, it's this confrontation of emotional decision making and calculated decision making. And the further you go away from home, I feel the pressure can be more immense because you're there this smaller period of time, you're in a range that you don't know. And so there's this weight that you can sometimes feel to seize that opportunity more so than if you're oh, I can hit this next week or next month or next year. And I think that it comes down to trusting your intuition and the process of your decision making, and kind of balancing that and just understanding, really where the decision making is coming from. Is it emotional? Yeah, for sure. You want to go and pull this thing off your first expedition, but we didn't find that on Trango. And if it's meaningful enough, and if you have the means and opportunity to go back, you can. And those mountains don't really go anywhere. So you have to remember that, and most people want you to come back alive. So that's another thing you have to remember.
I mean, yeah, basically, if you find a good objective for yourself, you're probably going several times, and it's not going to work on the first time, on the first attempt. That's the thing, yeah.
And anyone who spends time in the mountains, you really understand that you have to enjoy the process. You have to enjoy just being uncomfortable, putting in the effort. And, the longer that story is, if you're engaging year after year, a couple expeditions to get this done, if it's meaningful to you, it's going to have a lot of presence in your life because you continue to trust that vision and to pursue it. And you see that with the guys on Johnny, they accomplished it on their 4th year. And that's a rich story. That's something that's means a lot. And to me, to hear that story, it's whoa, those guys really believed in this and engaged with that and trusted it. And so, yeah, just trusting your vision and your decision making and just the overall like experience of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you obviously you succeeded on Trango, I think your third year. Are there any lines that have gotten away from either of you that maybe still are in that place, so you're still thinking about?
Yeah, so like I've got lots of lines around here, around Chamonix in the Alps,
Yeah.
that I've been like, I don't know, for like 4, 5, 6 times. And there's always something like that was very funny on the we went on Weisshorn, which is like kind of like the king of the Wallis, close to Zermatt, 4,500 that spring. And the story is like we went several times with bike, like there was an approach with the bike and big bags and stuff. And like you show up like after a long approach to the bottom, you can see the mountain. And I went like several times, and every time there was a different reason for not reaching the top. Was the ice, was the snow, was the wind, and it's just next to your house. It's like you're like, I mean, it's 2 hours driving, and then sometimes you're gonna go in the forest valley in Pakistan or wherever, and on the first try you're gonna do it. It's like so frustrating. And well, actually, so yeah, I was happy to show her this mountain, and we failed. and so yeah, so I mean, I think there's lots of mountains. I would say I put lots of energy when I go on expedition to like succeed on first trail, but also you cannot. Like if the conditions are not there, if it's not gonna happen, there's destiny, and you have to accept that for sure. So there's a couple of projects in mind that we need to go back. Yeah.
And I just think like in theory the list should get smaller if you take them off, but it doesn't, like, because you turn another corner and you see this insane piece of terrain, or see a photo in a guidebook. It's like I think if anything, the list is getting bigger, especially with this guy, like he's pushing. And so, yeah, we're just like rolling with it. Sometimes feels like we're running on fumes, but we're like, yeah, still tickets are booked. Yeah.
I think it's one of the beauties of, I definitely think it's one of the beauties of this like thing that we all love, climbing and skiing and playing in the mountains is, the list, I just can't imagine how it could possibly get smaller. Like there's just so much out there, and also the sport is still like moving forward, right? So like in the really high mountain stuff that I've gotten a chance to play in, like, ski mountaineering used to be all done on the highest mountains with supplemental oxygen. And then, just in the last few years, thanks to, like Andrej skiing K2 without supplemental oxygen, is like the mindset is changing. And it's like, there's like a whole new energy, I think, in like the really highest mountain ski mountaineering and what's possible. And so like, as I call them kids. They're not kids, but like these next generations coming in and pushing the sport and showing what's possible, whether it's with speed or enchainments or no oxygen or steeper lines, or Lusti, like you skiing with GS turns down the big, steepest lines, instead of like picking our way down on our edges. Like I spend a lot of time doing, like, there's just so much. How can the list not keep growing forever? And I think that also, for me at least, it's helped in an acceptance in my life of like, I'm never going to do the list. I'm never going to do a fraction of the list. And so I also need to accept like, joy in what I get to do. And there's so much more I'll never do. And
this is a hard process for sure. But, and like, and also there's this FOMO, when you like, you're like a bit on social. I also try to not like, there's some people that really inspire me, but I just like, click, unfollow, because they just like, and I will go and see what they're doing, like if I want, but otherwise it's just like bother me all the time. I'm like, oh, I should be there, or like, and like nowadays there's not so many tools to go like into very details of forecast and the terrain and everything, and so you just want to go like and do some stuff. Like you were talking about Andrej, I was just literally just before getting on that podcast, like seeing like his kid just this morning, his kid like today, or his kid from the South Code, there was
from
like
8,000 meters,
tons of snow, and I'm like, well, I should be there. Oh. But I have a podcast, so I cannot. I have to.
You would have been there otherwise, but you had to join the Duffel Shuffle.
Obviously, there's tons of lines out there that you guys have on your list, but is there any, and we won't ask you for specifics, but is there any like dream trip or dream expedition that you guys share?
No. I want the specifics. These guys said we're running on fumes. The tickets are booked. What's happening? Let's go.
Yeah, no, we going, like, basically that was hard for us to, we had different plans, but like hard to get some, permits and authorization. And we quite like moved from Nepal to South America. So yeah, we're not gonna say like specifically where we're going because it's super dry right now. Like,
Yeah.
the we got, I was like, okay, is that a joke? Like, okay, we're gonna go on sneakers. I think it's gonna be train. It's not gonna be skiing. I don't know. So like,
I know you're not going where I just was, but yeah, Patagonia. Yeah, I just skied in Patagonia for a couple of weeks, and we were doing up to 2 hours with sneakers to get to snowline in places that people usually ski back to their vehicle. It hasn't been a great season, but I mean, we all know as well, like one storm can really change things on certain faces. When you leave soon?
October 1st, yeah.
All right. Fantastic. We'll be excited to hear more about it when you start talking about it.
Yeah, with pleasure. But now, yeah, it's a little bit, it has changed. It's like always the game. It's like changing until last minute, and hopefully we will get aligned. Yeah. We go with a bunch of very talented guys. Like, we're gonna be 4 actually, and it's like a mix of like they're all like big characters, Like, I consider her as a big character, Two other guys are like, I don't know. I'll be tailguiding again, but for sure. But yeah, we go with like very big characters. So I can't wait to see how all this mix like gonna work, and it's quite interesting as well. Exciting.
Well, one of the beauties of expeditions is it's not always about the success. It's about the whole process, right? And I hate to wrap this up, but we want to hear one of your best Duffel Shuffle stories. Not the successes.
Sam, hard pivot. I have so many more questions.
Not the successes, but one of your best Duffel Shuffle stories where nothing was going right. Planes, trains, automobiles, and everything going wrong.
Well, I guess just something that comes to mind was when we were heading into the Trango Towers. There was a 3-day approach where our duffels were strapped to mules. And we were heading up, our base camp was 4,000 meters. And in Pakistan, often you have like a big team of mules and porters and some staff. And so when we arrived, they just threw my duffel into the tent, or all of our tents. And, you're so excited at that point to like make this little home that you're going to be at for 4 weeks. And I just remember hearing someone like, there's a tick in my tent. And these tick breathe are coming off the mules and in our tent, or like from, it was like, so that's just like this creepy thing. I guess it's not this duffel story, but.
How long were you finding ticks for?
Yeah.
Well, I found one on my thumb like a week later.
No. Yeah. That is the problem. Like, I've had one really big leech trip going into Makalu, my second attempt on Makalu with Hillary and Jim and a lot of our mutual friends. But same thing, everyone's like, oh, there's leeches, but it's only for 1 day. But the problem was what Sam just said. Like, we went through the leech part of the forest for 1 day, but then we were finding them like 10 days later in our sleeping bags, like this big. It's like, once they're there, same as ticks, I'm sure, like,
nightmare.
The tail end is long.
Leeches or ticks? I don't know which one I'd want more.
I'd take the leech.
Yeah, I take the leech too, even though they're so gross. So, Gee, you get the second question we asked every guest then, which is, on this next expedition, you're about to go on October 1st, you're packing your duffel bags. What is the very first thing that you would put in your bags? Like, you're never going to travel without it.
Yeah, it's going to be a spoon, basically, because Yeah, we on the because I'm traveling with her, and on the past 2 expedition, we were eating the dehydrated food with Peyton because we forgot about the spoon. So we were like, oh, like with the finger, or like we were like
Oh,
trying
Yeah.
that was like not good at all. So it was like,
Lusti
okay,
doesn't need
don't forget the
utensils.
spoon. And we were like, okay, we're gonna get 2 spoons. And so I was like, yeah, okay. So first thing in the default, I throw the spoon for sure.
Fresh spoons.
I like it. You should get like 6 or 8. It sounds like they go missing. Oh, that's excellent. I love it.
Well, thank you guys so much for the time. It was an awesome conversation, and I hope we can get you back on after this next expedition or a future expedition, because it's really fun talking to you guys.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just
Lots.
want to say thanks as well for joining us, taking the time, and to thank you both, to encourage you to just keep inspiring us. I feel like we barely scratched the surface of kind of stories and backstories and how you're achieving what you are achieving, and the hardship of putting together the skills you have with the right people and getting the permissions to go to the right mountains with the vision of the right lines. It is almost impossibly difficult, but that is also the beauty of it. And you're showing what's possible when it all comes together. So thanks. Keep inspiring us.
Thank you. And I was just about to say, like, I'm also inspired by you guys, and I'd love to meet you in person one day, like Adrian, and maybe on a big mountain.
Yeah, let's go skiing.
Let's go skiing.
Awesome. Thanks both.
Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Duffel Shuffle podcast. You can follow along on Instagram, where we post our favorite clips from each episode, as well as more about the world of climbing, skiing, and mountaineering. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Catch you next time, and until then, we hope you enjoy some time outside.